TG Geeks, episode 362, January 24th, 2022. Narrating the Tarot. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery, sci-fi, comics, film, horror, genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, coming to you from Cloud9 here in Phoenix, Arizona, and you will soon find out why.
Let's get on with it.
Prepare for hyperdrive.
Meanwhile, in the Hall of Episodes, the Two Gay Geeks are discussing this.
You're in for a
Oh
treat.
my gosh. We have got Katie Edwards and Josh Hurley, who is the narrator.
He's basically the voice of the tarot sequence.
The voice of the tarot sequence at this present time. He's narrated The Last Son as well as The Hanged Man, and crossing our fingers, toes, eyes, legs, and whatever else we can cross, that he will narrate
the Hourglass
Throne.
We got them both on the show.
Both on the show, and there's a treat in the episode, or in the interview, so listen to the end. Birthday shout-outs, featured podcast of the week. Did you put in?
No feedback.
No feedback.
No feedback this week.
Shout-outs, no second segment. Weekly recap, and then a regular shout out. So we're going to, because this is a very, very long interview, but it's great stuff.
Yeah,
so
gold.
Here we go. And we welcome to our show.
Holy cow.
This is so exciting. Mr. Katie Edwards.
So it's always exciting to have him.
Always exciting. Author of The Last Son, or the Tarot Sequence novels, The Last Son, Hanged Man, and the upcoming Hourglass Throne. And we also have Mr. Josh Hurley, who has narrated The Last Son and The Hanged Man. So, and there was much rejoicing. Yay!
Yay!
Welcome to the show. Oh my gosh. This is amazing to have the two of you here.
And to say, I know that, Keith, you've been saying how you've been wanting to put this together for some time. You've been saying that on Twitter. I have been wanting Josh on this show for well over a year, and to finally get you on the show and to hear your real voice for once is a pure delight.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. Thank you. Well, kudos to you, gents, for being much more pro about it than I apologize for my a little bit of my flakiness in terms of getting this to happen. So thank you so much for being awesome about it and making it happen.
It's in the past. This is the present. You're here now. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Absolutely. So before we launch into this, any other things that we're going to talk about here
on the Four Gay Geek show?
Exactly. Let's get a quick background from Mr. Katie Edwards, in case there is somebody out there who has not listened to our show and does not know who he is.
He's still getting new fans, by the way. So yes, we need to do this.
Go ahead, Keith. Tell us what little short paragraph of your background.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Katie Edwards. I'm the author of the Tarot Sequence, and this is my dream of a lifetime to write this series. I've been working on it for years and years. It's hopefully going to be a planned 9-book series, and I cannot believe I am at the end of my first trilogy. It is stunning, and it's going to be hard to talk on this interview because I am so excited to have Josh here. I'm one of those authors who, I'm probably a rare author in that I read every review. I read every Goodreads review, every Amazon review, on independent book sites. It's really important to me because I get a lot of information to guide my series. And so I'm very aware of the fact that I got to say, like, 1 out of every 3 reviews I get comments on Josh's just phenomenal work on the narration. So
cool.
having this here and one of the things that we plan on doing this call, this is like incredibly excited. So if I don't talk much, it's because I'm listening.
Oh, likewise.
Cool.
I'll say, and you're in, Katie, too. Like, I being part of a series where people just really, that's the other thing is like the writing. I mean, as a narrator, like the writing's, that's the thing. And as a narrator, hopefully you're serving the writing. That's your job, is to serve the story and bottom line. So if you get a great story that's engaging and fun and the characters are really like real and relatable and funny and likable and deep and have, emotions and stuff, it's like for a narrator, that's like a dream come true. So this series has been genuinely nothing but a joy to narrate and to be a part of. And also just seeing how many, out there, like, I do the same. Like, I enjoy like looking at reviews too, just to see, kind of what people are saying and stuff. So I don't mind reading reviews. And I gotta say, like, there's like this series has so many people who they don't just like the series; they love the series.
Oh, they're passionate. They
live the series.
Yeah, I mean, he has created. He's got this fandom. I mean, all you got to do, and every time we have, Keith Edwards on the show, we always mention this. All you got to do is go to Twitter and go, find him on Twitter and look at everybody who follows him and the contributions that everybody comes forward with, especially in terms of art and merchandise. I mean, this is pop culture phenomenon is what we're seeing here. So, I mean, and that speaks to the quality of the work.
It also spikes our podcast listens too.
That too. We love that. So yes, having you guys on is definitely scratching our backs.
Exactly. So Josh, tell us a little bit of your background. Who are you and where did you, grow up, and how did you get into voiceover, and, just a little short elevator ride?
Sure, absolutely. 99% of that's classified, so I can tell you my name is Josh Hurley, and I am a narrator. So I hope did that answer your question? I'm just kidding.
Wow, I am so underwhelmed.
Oh, good. Then I've done my job.
There you go.
No, none of it's classified because no one's too concerned about my story, but I will say, so I am, so I originally came from Idaho, and
you're a spud boy.
I am, and man, I love me some potatoes. I will totally lean into that Idaho stereotype happily. All kinds of potatoes. Starch man.
Starch man. We have music for that too.
A new superhero.
Carbohydrates? Did I hear someone needing carbohydrates? It's me, Starch Man.
Carbohydrates activate.
Josh, exactly. If I have the characters going on an American road trip, maybe I'm going to have them go through Idaho.
oh man, I personally would love that.
I tell you, Josh, if you narrate book 4, I mean, that'll give you an opportunity to add personal color to the narration.
There we go.
Oh man, yeah, any character from Idaho, I think I can just, I've got it down. It's in my blood.
So. Oh, I can believe it, and I'll know if you're being authentic because I've got a number of friends who are from Idaho.
So where in Idaho did you grow up?
Southeast Idaho. Pocatello, Idaho.
Oh my! Oh, you're a Pokey.
I've been to Pocatello.
I've got a number of friends that are from Pocatello. I'm former LDS.
What? Well, back it up.
I am
Anytime you meet anyone who knows anything about Pocatello, it's like, wait a minute.
Some of my best friends are from Pocatello. I've never been there, but some of my best friends are because I'm technically still a Mormon. and I did a Mormon mission, and a lot of the missionary companions that I worked with were from Pocatello.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And I went to Pocatello I travel with my job, or used to travel with my job, and I was there to see one of the hospital. I assume I don't know how many hospitals, but the hospital that was there, they were implementing our software. So I was in Pocatello for a week.
I wonder if it's like PRMC or Pocatello Regional.
You were in Pocatello for a week there one day.
Yes, exactly.
That's wild. That is so wild. I too also I served an LDS mission as well, and so
oh my God, where did you go?
It's fun because I had mission companions from all over, Idaho and Utah, because it was definitely a big.
Those
big
are the
thing,
big.
so
Those. I just got to ask the question before we go further into your career. Where did you go?
I went to Dublin, Ireland.
Oh my God. Wow, that's far more exotic. I was in Virginia.
Hey, Virginia's cool. I've heard of people getting called, if they're in Idaho, they're like, and you'll be going to Provo, and you're like, what? I actually had a friend who get
I can
called
walk
Provo.
down there.
I used to live in I used to live in California, in a suburb of San Francisco, and one of my best friends, she served a mission in Salt Lake.
Jeez.
I know. I was like, kill me now. I wanted to go to go to the UK, but so I envy you. Anyway, so now that now that our Mormons are in the past, how did you get into what where are you now, and how did you get into what are you doing?
Sure. So it's kind of a wild story. So I moved to New York around 2007-ish, and I wanted to do actually, a funny story. Speaking of, I guess not quite done with the mission stuff. In that, my buddy Mike Brown was a mission companion of mine, and we were both kind of we both loved comedy. We were both a little goofy, and I believe we got put together because we were both so goofy, and they wanted to see what would happen. I think the AP was like, "Let's see what happens when we put these two."
Wow, your mission president has a sense of humor.
Well, I think it was more the AP because was the assistant, and was like, I think let's see what happens. I think it was more of a personal experiment, to more of an entertainment thing. And then they put us out in this area that was way out there, really beautiful area, Port Stewart, Port Rush, and in Northern Ireland. And so we kind of just had a lot of time to goof around and laugh and joke and stuff as we were walking. And so we got to become really good friends. We both loved the same things and comedy, and we both wanted to do comedy. And I had plans to go to Second City. I wanted to study at Second City in Chicago.
Oh, cool.
And so he kind of was like, yeah, that's really cool. So he's like, well, we should, think about possibly doing that afterwards. And I was like, yeah. So then cut to 2007. I just graduated at Idaho State University, got a degree in theater and acting, directing. And I was like, well, what to do? And so I talked to Mike, and he was like, hey, I'm in Jersey. Do you want to come here? And I was like, oh yeah, I never thought about New York, but yeah, I really would. I've always kind of loved the city from afar, but so anyway, came to New York, and we were roomies, and then I just started auditioning for stuff, did some stuff at the Pit, People's Improv Theater, UCB, worked a few things here and there, took some classes there, and so I was doing a lot of that. I was really heavily into improv and stuff, and then I was working at Borders Books, the one in Penn Station, 34th Street, and I was just working the front desk, and I long story short, I actually met someone who I owe my career to, basically, Mike Charzuk, and he was a producer there and at Audible, and he gave me an opportunity to audition. So I was like, wow, we just got to talking. He came into Borders, was looking for a magazine, audiophile magazine, I believe, and we got to talking, and he was very kind, and we just had a nice conversation. It wasn't we're trying to talk shop or anything, but then he just said, well, invited me in for an audition. So I knew something was up. So I was like, this is a big deal.
That's that's right up there with I was waiting tables and a producer came in and cast me in a movie.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's weird because you hear those stories, you go, yeah, right, that doesn't happen, and it did. And again, I mean, it was all him being very kind to this nobody kid sitting at the front desk of a bookstore. But I went in and I was like, I got to get this because I know this is important. So I listened to lots of audiobook samples. I practiced a lot, and I was very comfortable on stage and performing and characters and voices, and I love doing voices and stuff. That was always a big thing for me. But then this was kind of a newer thing. So then I went in and I felt actually once in my life felt pretty darn good about my audition. Went in and the rest is history. We kind of started reading. So,
cool.
So if you're listening, Mike, thank you.
Wow, that is incredible. Are you still living in the city, or are you located someplace else now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in the city now. I'm in New York. I'm in New York City now, and I love it. And
which borough?
It's funny because I'm in Astoria.
Oh.
Okay. Because I'm thinking, because we go back to New York every once in a while. We were there a couple of years ago, just when the bomb of COVID was dropped on us.
We were sitting in JFK when they made the announcement they were going to close the city the next day. It's like,
we had gone there. We'd gone there to catch 4 operas at the Met, and the day of the very first opera, they canceled the entire season.
Oh no!
Yeah, we were wrecked.
In fact, the moment we landed, I was getting emails from various things and people that we had set up. We'd set up a backstage tour. I got that email the moment we landed that they had canceled that, and then things were beginning to close.
And the day after the Met canceled, Broadway shut down, and then, as it turns out, we were in Times Square meeting another friend who was there with his girlfriend.
It was empty.
And Times Square was a ghost town. It was just...
What a weird sight, right?
Yeah, it was. I have a photo of it.
Yeah, and I sent Keith, my husband, he posted the picture online, and my mom, who lived in New York before I was born, she took a look at it, and she commented, she says, "Where is everybody?"
Exactly. Anyway,
so yeah,
enough of us.
Yeah, we were there right as COVID began to hit. The point is that we like to go to New York from time to time. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, if you are in New York, let me know, and we'll go grab some food and hopefully go see a show, and it doesn't get shut down on us, which is is possible at this moment. So who knows?
So and let me ask this question: how did you get connected with this series? That the tarot sequence, and was it just an option for you? I don't know how it works for voiceover or narrators of books for Audible or any other service that does that. Do you have they send you a sample and you say yay or nay, or do they say you're going to narrate this?
Usually it's sometimes it kind of depends on the company and who you're working with. For this one, if I remember correctly, it was I was invited to I believe I auditioned for this one, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong. I did. Okay, yeah. I was like, I'm pretty sure I auditioned for this one, and then thank you. I remember reading this and I was like, I do remember. Because I believe the sample that I was auditioning with was like the very first chapter, right? It was like the first. Is that right, Katie? Do you remember? Was it like the first? Yeah.
I heard it. I heard the sample reading you did, and you were one of the top choices when it came to us. There was almost like nothing I needed to do except enjoy listening to it.
Oh, thank you. Well, that means a lot. And honestly, like for me personally too, just like knowing, like I feel like if the author is happy, that's the key, because it's the author knows the story better than anyone.
Yeah,
so
it's
I
their
think
story. Yeah,
that to me like is the best compliment. So thank you.
Cool.
And I just remember reading it and going, oh, this is not just your average bear here. This is not your typical story. There's something kind of special about this, because even just in the first couple pages, like the setup and the sort of the voice of Rune really comes through. So I was very happy to jump into this, and then reading it and stuff, just the relationships. I was like, so that's how I got into it. Is I got invited to audition for it, and then found out I got it, and I was very excited.
Yeah,
and you've been a fan pretty much ever since, because you and I've chatted a little bit here and there on Twitter, and I remember you saying one time how you couldn't wait for like the next book because you were like anxious to find out where the story was going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, I'll be honest, like for narrators, sometimes you are more invested in certain books than others. I mean, sometimes you get books that you're like, okay, that was good. And you always try to give you have 110% to it, but there are books that you do sort of get invested in, and this is definitely one of them. And I think it's just it's a great story, and I can't stress enough how much I love the relationships between the characters and just how real they feel and how honest they sound.
Absolutely.
Like Brand and Rune's relationship, I think is some of the best sort of back and forth and sort of their banter and their relationship, and just the depth of their relationship is just great. And it's just a treat for me to
there are voices that, I mean, if you get picked for the Hourglass Throne, and I'm crossing my fingers that is a done deal, there are passages in that book that I am dying to hear you do, because I think it's going to make your brain melt. but
I'm dying to do them. I mean,
well, to hear you flip, to hear you jump between different Russian accents is going to be a lot of fun. But being that, you haven't seen the Hourglass Throne obviously yet. So
I have not.
Yeah, there are.
Unfortunately,
I'll be honest. There are only two things I stress about whenever I turn a book in, and one is waiting to see what the cover art is going to look like, and the second is confirmation that Josh is going to be narrating. Those are literally the only two things I stress about. I mean, by the time I submit my story, I've been working on it for years, so I usually feel confident. But it's always pins and needles until the final contract work is in place for the cover.
Okay.
Well, this speaking of which,
Josh is the series. Josh is the voice of the series.
Well, that kind of okay. Go ahead, honey.
Speaking of the cover, I understand that you have a
reveal?
Information about that.
The cover is done, and the lettering goes on it on Monday.
Cool.
And there are a bunch of websites, I think around 17 or 18 websites, that are jointly going to simultaneously reveal it on, I believe, Friday, either Thursday or Friday. Really excited about that.
Cool.
That worked out perfectly, too. So if everything goes out well with the Audible, the cover's already looking great. I am more proud of this book than I am most things I produce.
And you freaking well should be. It's the best thing you've ever written.
It is great.
And this again goes back to what I was saying earlier about the fandom. 17 websites that are working together as part of a big party reveal. Where do you see this happening?
Wow.
Elsewhere.
I have amazing readers, and it's part of it is that it's important to me that this isn't just my story. I share this story with people. I share the world building. When I write it, I actually think of Josh. I think of, we actually changed a couple lines in the manuscript thinking this is going to make it easier for Josh.
Right.
I mean, that's important to me to make sure he's got some narrative tools as well. And flexibility, perfectly okay if Josh comes to me and says, what about this pronunciation or this pronunciation? Or it's so important to me that other people are a part of this as well. It's not just my world. I've always wanted to share it, and that's the way it's working. Okay. So it's a charm experience. I mean, this is like literally the dream of a lifetime.
Yeah, and I've noticed some folks are a little antsy about this book because of you have always indicated that this is it's
a heavy book.
This is the heavy book. It's the one that answers the biggest questions, but it's not heavy as in, oh, we're going to rip your heart out and stomp on it and then put it back in and then stomp on you. But
no, but yeah, you do. You ripped my heart out. You broke into little pieces. You stomped all over it, and then you very gingerly, with Band-Aid, put it back in me. So there you are.
No.
Well, in a way. I mean, I was gutted after reading it.
I do have strong reactions I've actually even addressed that on Twitter because, there are some books out there that are known for. How to put this politely, where there really is a lot of emotional manipulation that goes on. Like you enter the story knowing it's going to be a tearjerker, and that is the last thing that I ever want to do. I can't avoid elements of that because I've said all along, I've been really honest that this is the third book of the trilogy. Rune's secrets, which from the beginning, it's very clear that he's an unreliable narrator about certain things. Josh has done a wonderful job with that. It's very clear that Rune is keeping something from the reader. And I promise you're not going to wait 9 books to find out. The first 3 books are about you finding out as a reader, what is Rune keeping from you? Why is he an unreliable narration? That all comes out. And it's not easy stuff because, Rune does have a background where there's assault and there's abuse, there's torture. And what he went to experience the night that his father's estate fell, I don't it's not graphic. I'm not using that as a tool to break readers, but it's a reality that I finally addressed that, and it's finally revealed what is Rune keeping from everyone. And so it's important for people to know that I'm approaching it with a lot of love. Like, I built a found family. This isn't about destroying the found family. This is about seeing how they weather problems. And I think I got that balance. It was very tricky.
Yeah.
That emotional balance so that you left feeling hopeful.
Exactly. I think that's what comes across to me.
Honestly,
anyway.
Josh's interpretation of this is something I am really excited about, and I know readers are excited about it.
Yeah, and I want to clarify one thing. I mean, you've said in the past you refer to Rune as an unreliable narrator. I would not use the word unreliable because that sort of implies a malicious deceit, and there isn't any. I mean, when it comes out, and I'm not going to say anything, but when it comes out, it makes perfect sense, and you don't hate Rune for it. In fact, I felt such great sorrow for Rune for
and that's
the
what
reason.
I mean, Rune is a good guy. I certainly never wanted people to think that behind the scenes he might be the bad guy, but he was put in an impossible situation, and it's getting that down on paper for the third book. This was the challenge of my career. Really, this was the hardest book I've had to finish. Not necessarily write, but finish. But I think I did it to the point where I'm really excited about what happens next, opening the door to the next trilogy.
So I got a question. Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, I apologize. No. I actually had a question for Katie too, on that regard. Is there, if you don't mind? I was just curious, Katie. So with this book particularly, did you kind of know where you wanted to end up? I mean, in your terms of your process, did you know that this book was going to have a lot of things that Rune was going to sort of
I
speak about or sort of like confront?
I absolutely, for the most part, I really knew where every book is going to land, all 9 books. Some things will change within it. Some things happen quicker than others, but this doesn't deviate from what I imagined to begin with. If anything, I think the closer I got to it, the more I realized I'd really been leading up to it well. There's a lot of breadcrumbs. A lot happens. This is Rune's story. It's not just the first 3 novels. Rune's story is 9 books long, but to encapsulate what I wanted to, revealing his secrets in the first 3 books, I really did think I landed on that well. But it wasn't easy. I knew what was going to happen, but man, addressing some of that stuff, I care about the characters too. I mean, they've been in my head for years.
Yeah,
so, and it was tough.
And I do want to, for anybody who's listening to this and thinking that I was just really dishing on the Hourglass Throne, let me say this. It is the best book that I've ever written. Read. Best book you've ever written. Best book I've ever read. And yes, there are.
Yes, I wrote this book.
No, I did not. I lack the ability to write something of this kind of magnitude.
I'm stealing it. It's mine now.
No. I lack. I lack.
The podcast is really 2 ghostwriter geeks. I see.
Yeah. No, I lack any talent to be able to write anything on this level. I mean, no. Katie, this really is. You have written 3 utter absolute masterpieces that just bring tears to my eyes because there's just that bloody good. And I do want to say that the Hourglass Throne, for all its intensity, has some unbelievable moments of levity and love. I mean, love permeates this book all over the place.
And I think do we have a treat for the listeners?
I am looking forward to this. I got to be perfectly honest. Josh does have a 500-word excerpt from early in the book, and it's one of the moments from the beginning when things are still rather light. But it's it's half of one of my favorite scenes. You're not going to get the second half of it, but I am just insanely excited to hand this scene to him.
Cool. So
thank you. And can I just say I'm a little jealous that I'm the only one in this conversation who hasn't got to read the whole thing yet. So.
You'll fix that soon, won't you, Keith?
soon, hopefully soon.
All right.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I mean, if you whenever you'd like, we can jump in. When I got the scene, I was like, oh, this is so great! It got me so excited to jump back in the series.
Before we do,
I context for the scene if you guys want.
Well, I've got 2 questions for Josh. They're sort of like hand in hand, and I wanted to get these out before I forget them. So you've said how you've been like really emotionally invested, a lot with these characters. When you read it, how much, and between your own emotional feelings and what you're seeing on the printed page, how much does that inform what you're doing as the character? And the variety of voices that you're using.
So, so in terms of like me, the actor.
Well, I mean, like, you've really managed to identify some very strong voice types. Like you speak in a certain way. Oh, that's Brand. You speak in another way. Oh, that is clearly Rune. And you do it so well to the point where I don't feel like I'm listening to a narrator doing voices. I feel like I'm listening to the characters. So how much does what Keith writes inform what you're doing as the voiceover narrator?
I will definitely say that some authors, and KD is right up there at the top of that, have this great ability to put a lot of personality into the dialogue of the character. And sometimes you have to do a lot of sussing as a narrator yourself. You have to sort of use your magic what if and create a lot more when the dialogue, even with description, but when the way people speak and the sort of the how long their sentences are, how short their sentences are, how quick they get to the point, how long they take to get to their point, all these little context clues, and there's a lot of that in this. So I think certainly a lot of that I definitely found very helpful. Katie was kind right at the beginning of the process, and I love being able to communicate with the author, and I like being able to like get the author's feedback. And so he kind of set me on the right path with a few sort of ideas of like, okay, this is kind of what I was thinking a little bit here. But he was very generous in being able to be like, I trust your approach, I trust your your vision of this and what you bring to it. But I love that collaboration. So taking what he kind of set me on the right path with, I kind of went that. And then kind of just tried to listen to. It may sound cheesy, but sometimes I try to like, and also if I'm stuck with a voiceover, I'll just be like, all right, I'm going to step away and let the character just try to talk to me. And sometimes I'll even just have a little bit of a conversation with myself and the character just to hear how they are talking to me. It sounds a little crazy, and maybe I'll.
No, it's very method acting.
Yeah, there's nothing crazy about that.
And it's funny because I never consider myself. It's never like Marlon Brando where come in and just be like, all right, I gotta really get into character here. But because I like to, I feel like I am someone who, for better or worse, can kind of jump in and jump out of something. But sometimes, depending. But sometimes with characters, and this is especially, and I'll say this too. Sorry, I'm kind of going off on a little tangent here. But sometimes, especially with things that have such a big fan base and people really love these characters and people care about them a lot, there's a responsibility there. You want to really make sure you're serving them to the best of your ability. So cool. So that kind of also comes into play too, and being like, all right, this is not just for me. This isn't just fun voice time. It's like, how do I serve up these characters? And it's also fun voice time, because I think that's the key for any performance is to be enjoying what you're doing, and Katie makes it really easy.
Cool. So this brings about the second question, and that is when I think you kind of already answered it. We hear how personal it is for Mr. Edwards when he writes these characters, how much he's in love with them. You're the one who's bringing them vocally to life. How invested are you on a personal level in this story? I mean, obviously it feels like you've taken some ownership to the content on some, on your own level. But how personal is this all to you now as far as how the story goes? I mean, what are you feeling when you're reading certain things, that are happening to our heroes?
That's a good question. I think the key is sort of that being present. And, I grew up doing improv, and that's one of my biggest passions. And really one of the biggest teachings in improv is to be in the moment and listen and respond honestly. So sometimes, I often don't try. I try not to over prepare too. I feel like if I over prepare, I sabotage myself because I give myself too many things to do that inevitably I don't. So I like to sort of be influenced. I read it through and I'll absorb it, and I'll go sometimes scene by scene to make sure, okay, I know this is the big moments here. This is what we want to get. But I kind of want to also sort of be on their journey with the reader as well, to kind of be surprised when the characters are surprised, and to be so. As much as I can, I try to sort of just take each scene and just let it affect me in the moment, because I feel and be as present as possible, because I feel like, so for me personally, some of the intense scenes and things like that, like especially while recording and not just in the prep time, because in the prep you're highlighting and underlining and marking, shouting this line or whispering this line. So really, when you get into the booth, for me, the goal is to really just take each line and just let it affect me at that moment. Okay, so cool. Sometimes you'll get, like when we do retakes or something, if I mess up a line, sometimes I'll get a couple different line readings out of it, just because I'll go back and start reading it in a slightly different way, just to keep it in the moment. And for me, I guess the short answer to that long statement I just said is, I think for me, I just try to let it affect me in the moment personally, and again, with good writing, that's easy to do. And
but it's not like you take
another great thing I heard another narrator.
It's not like you're taking any ownership over what's happening.
I personally, Josh tries not to, because I feel like, again, it's not my story. But I do try when I'm reading Rune's lines, or when I'm reading Brand's lines, or or Tower, or anyone, I try to try to jump into them, into how do they feel about this at this moment, and then that kind of leaves me free to sort of do more jumping, as opposed to being very personally invested in a moment. I do, and like there's some very emotional moments and stuff that I personally am like, wow, that hit, but I kind of like to sort of jump in that way. Okay. And a great narrator once told me, she said, let the words do the work, because that's what people are here for. And again, with this book and with the series, these books, the words do a lot of the heavy lifting. So I just sort of get to lift them up off the pages, really.
Yeah, actually,
without sounding too heavy-handed about it.
I'd love to add something here, because Josh isn't giving himself enough credit. One of the things that I do with my writing, I made a commitment in the beginning. How about this? One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was reading, I think it was 10 Rules for Writing by Elmore Leonard. And Elmore Leonard said, you know what? Said and asked. You don't need too many other dialogue tags. You say said, or you say asked. The dialogue should stand on its own. You shouldn't be adding too much narrative buffer in the dialogue tags to explain how they're feeling. If you have to do that, the dialogue isn't doing what it should do. So my dialogue, from the beginning, I made a commitment to give the reader a lot of agency and how they interpreted the emotion. I wanted them to feel like they were part of the story. So what Josh is talking about, he's actually, I think, downplaying his own intuition, because he nails it. I mean, however I felt about Josh and his work in the beginning, after 2 novels and reading the reader readback, I have no notes for him. Like, my trust is absolute, because he just gets it. He's able to really take that dialogue and breathe life into it. So, I didn't necessarily give as much assistance as other writers would with, again, adding that buffering dialogue tag language, but he just nails that. I mean, every character is just so distinct. So that's a huge skill for an Audible narrator that impresses me to no end.
Okay.
And to Katie's point, I love that too as a narrator, like being able to interpret lines when it's just I said, because I said, you're right, is so it gives the readers and the narrator so much more to play with in their brain, as opposed to sort of like grabbing them by the hand and dragging them through an emotional moment. And I love that, and you can definitely tell that. And again, the dialogue does the work. So cool. And Katie's been nothing but helpful whenever I had a question about a character. He's always been very willing to give me everything he can on, like if I have a question about a character or a voice, or I remember I think we had a question about an accent, and he was like, yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Go for it. Which is so great. It's so freeing to be able to like have working with an author who's so like willing to sort of make the best product possible. And it's not about ego. It's about just a good story. And it's obviously that's what we've got with these 2 books. And I know for the 3rd one, I'm sure.
Yeah. So let's hear what you have to say. Do you want to set it up, Keith?
Yeah, I'll just mention that the scene is just a small 500-word scene. It happens really early in the novel. One of the things, usually the opening chapter is what I always call my opening action sequence, and I try not to disappoint in this one. It's a long first chapter, and this time the opening sequence actually relates directly to the rest of the story. It's not something tangential in their life, but the second and the third chapter really establishes what's going on in their life. We know they've moved on to Sun Estate. They do, routine patrols. They've been rehabilitating it. So this is more of like the family building chapters, the character development. And this is a scene where they've just finished one of their patrols and they come upon Anna in the hallway.
This is from the Hourglass Throne. Another day of this weird new life I now led was over. The kids were sleeping in the ballroom, which is where a lot of us tended to wind up for some reason. We actually kept a trunk of blankets and yoga mats in the corner of the room because of it. I was thinking I might join them because Adam was spending the evening at the Crusader Throne, working through issues with his mother. Brand and I meandered there after doing a final perimeter walk, which may have been the only reason we caught Anna in the hallway with a bag of weed. Anna won Dawn Creek, Brand nearly shouted. She jumped and spun around. Explain yourself, I said. Because there is no way you think I'm okay with this. You are 13, she said. 13 years old, I finished. Do you know what they'll do to your do you know what that'll do to your development at this age? She glared at me. Will it kill my brain cells? Yes, Brand said. And it'll slow your reaction time, dull your reflexes, and undermine your training. So I might wind up stupid and unable to care for myself and make responsible decisions when I grow older, she said. I'm wondering if you'll be so flippant once your aunt finds out, I said. She'll make me tell her where I got it. So will I. Uh-huh, she said. Did you know that the room that Aunt Corinne and I share used to belong to Brand? And that there's a loose floorboard in the closet? Brand's eyes went wide. I saw this through my own widened eyes as I exchanged looks with him. Brand snatched the bag out of Anna's hand and shook it. An old freshness ward had preserved it, but the buds inside were still so ancient they nearly made a clacking sound. $20, I said. And you never mention this again. 50, she said. Snacks are expensive at school. I've got 2 20s in my pocket, I said, and pulled out all the cash I had on me. Deal, she said, and plucked the American bills from my hand. She went into the ballroom without a second look at the pot. Brand and I stared at the old Ziploc bag. There was even a pack of rolling papers inside it. I think I remember this, Brand mumbled. Didn't we used to get it through the guy who tended the orchard? It can't be good anymore. Can it? Probably not, Brand said, which wasn't a no. We could make sure it's inert. Then we could dispose of it properly. That would be very reasonable. That would be very responsible of us. That would be very responsible of us, he agreed. Proof, I said.
Yeah.
I am the happiest gay geek on the earth right now. I mean, I'm laughing and I'm crying at the same time hearing you do that. It's like, oh my God, that was wonderful.
Oh, thank you. And you also see sometimes how the sausage is made a little bit with the narrators aren't always perfectly smooth all the way through. Sometimes you have to do a little hiccup or a retake, but I love it.
I will leave those in. I was going to edit them out, but I'll leave them in.
Yeah, keep them in. Keep them in. Oh my God.
That was wonderful.
You have no idea what you just did for me. That was amazing.
Oh, Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Well,
and we are,
like I said, Katie, you get the credit here.
No, you do too. Trust me on that.
You're going to say,
and we are way over time. So
yeah, we're like way over time. So I'm just going to quickly throw this out. Kate, okay, both of you. First with Mr. Edwards, and then with Josh. Where can you be found on social media?
My social media of choice is Twitter. I am at Katie Edwards _NC as in North Carolina. And I also have a website, kd-edwards.com, and you can go to that website to get both trigger warnings. I now maintain a list of trigger warnings on the website because that's really important for me to signal that to readers. And also, I have all my free content on there as well, the between the novels stories that I write.
Including the latest chapters of Roy Alchemy.
Which I'm writing right now. Yes, I'm having a wonderful time.
And Josh, please, where can people find you and follow you?
If you want to follow me, I'm in Astoria. You just have to look for me. I'm the guy with the gray hat. You can follow me around. Just make sure you tell me who you are, so I don't call the police. No, you can follow me. Feel free to edit that out. You can follow me on Twitter at Joshua at JOSHUWHAAAT, I believe. 3 A's, I believe. It's got a picture of me in a pink shirt and a hat on it in it. So if that helps at all. And then you can always go to anywhere audiobooks are sold and look me up, and you can see some of the books I've narrated. You can go to audible.com and check me out there too. Just type my name in and you can find all the books I've narrated, and including the wonderful books The Last Son and The Hanged Man, and soon The Hourglass Throne. So yeah, that's me.
This has been absolutely wonderful.
What a joy.
Thank you both so much. This is just, it's incredible, and I hope that our listeners enjoyed as much as we did.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for having me on too.
Ditto. Agreed.
Hey, this is Josh Hurley, narrator of The Last Son and The Hanged Man by Katie Edwards, and you're listening to the Two Gay Geeks.
We're going to run through these birthdays real quick. A few selected birthdays for January 24th through January 30th, 2022. January 24th, Neil Diamond. What a singer that had what a talent. Had a very long career. It was when I was growing up, Neil Diamond was the thing.
Yep.
So I had Neil Diamond's greatest hits on,
I did too.
On 8-track tape.
I listened to Hot August Night all the time.
Yep. January 25th, Robert Burns, National Poet of Scotland. His birthday is celebrated around the world with Burns Suppers. Auld Lang Syne was his poem.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep, among many, many others. And the Burns Supper is quite the to-do. If you ever have an opportunity to go to a Burns Supper, do that. And we have friends Katie Salidas, Steve K., Craig Stepp of Technorama fame, and Ms. Jeannie Koch.
Our other favorite
author. January 26th, Ellen DeGeneres, comedian, lesbian, out lesbian comic TV personality, TV show for years and years.
Dory,
yes. And a friend of ours, Angelo Dell'Aquila, happy birthday. January 27th, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, composer of some of the most sublime music. Quite the prolific composer. Oh my gosh.
God, since he was a kid.
Yes, and died way too early.
Way too early.
Yep. And then friend of ours, D. Estelle. January 28th, Elijah Wood, actor, most known for his portrayal of Frodo in Lord of the Rings trilogy, or how many ever movies they made out of that originally. Essentially has retired from acting. He's doing a lot of independent stuff.
Lots. He's not doing the big studio stuff anymore.
It's just doing what he wants to do and what he loves to do. And then friend of ours, Barb Miller and Kevin Batchelder. January 29th, Adam Lambert.
Oh, my God.
Musician on tour with Queen. Oh, my. He's got like a 3-octave range or something like that.
It's an amazing range.
It's just unbelievable. And when he's with Queen, on tour with Queen, he does not try to imitate Freddie.
No.
He's some of his stylish things are very Freddie moves, shall we say.
Yeah, but it's clearly Adam
really
Lambert.
his.
Yeah.
It's Adam, and they do some of his own stuff in the concert as well, and he's quite the
guy's amazing.
Yeah.
I think he's fantastic.
And then we have Tommy Ramone. Is this the Ramone that's...
I don't know
This was
anymore.
the drummer, so...
I don't know which one we found over. I think it was the guitarist.
Hollywood Forever Cemetery, yeah. Right across from the mausoleum where lots of other people are entombed. January 30th, Phil Collins, musician, formerly with Genesis, and then his solo career. Huh?
Technically still with Genesis.
Well, and his solo career.
And
yes.
his solo career, yeah.
Yeah, if Genesis really still existed.
They're still touring.
Are they?
Yeah, he's still fronting them.
Oh, my gosh. And sadly has some serious health issues, so he's not doing as much as he used to.
He's not doing the drumming, but he does sit up front stage and sing.
Yep. And then we have Gene Hackman, actor. Oh, my gosh, great at comedy. His character and acting in The Birdcage is just
brilliant.
It's a brilliant, delightful thing to watch. So... and that's it for the birthdays this time.
Technorama, the podcast for geeks, because geeks are better than cool. You don't hear someone say, "Get away from me, you cool person." Who's gonna have their 65-inch home theater system installed by the Cool Squad? Not me, that's for sure. How much cool cred do you have? Not enough to care about. Think you'll find any canned unicorn meat at thinkcool.com? It's just a part domain name. They don't even have roadkill in a paper cup. That's why you need to start listening to Technorama, because that's what geeks do. Go to chuckchat.com and listen to Technorama before you turn cool.
Go give a listen to our friends Chuck and Craig, who had a birthday this week. The Technorama podcast.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe, and I believe that reaching out for help is the bravest thing a person can do. If you are struggling and need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386. It's free and confidential, and trained counsellors are there to listen 24/7 without judgment. To learn more about the Trevor Project's life-saving work for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning young people, go to thetrevorproject.org.
As always, a shout out to Joshua Tree Feeding Program, a 501c3 nonprofit food pantry for the HIV and AIDS community in Maricopa and Pinal counties. Could you certainly use your assistance right now. You can go to jtfp.org and you can give a single gift or a monthly recurring gift. No feedback
Not this
today.
week.
We just want to give a shout out to independent creators, filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, or others. Please buy their stuff. Chat them up. Go wherever you can find them. Support independent creators. If you are trans or are questioning your gender identity, and if you are in crisis or are feeling isolated and need someone to talk to, or you know of someone in a similar situation, there is a special hotline just for you. The hotline is provided by translifeline.org and staffed by trained counselors who are transgender themselves. The hotline in the U.S. is 877-565-8860. In Canada, it is 877-330-6366. Or you can go to translifeline.org to learn about the important work they are doing. Please reach out for help. You are not alone.
And it's time for our weekly recap. These are the items that we ran on our website at tggeeks.com this past week, and the links for each of these articles will be in the show notes for this episode number 362 at tggeeks.com, starting with Sunday, January 16th, Nerdy Chupacabras number 83. On Monday the 17th, TG Geeks episode number 361. On Tuesday the 18th, Slam Dance 2022 streaming online. On Wednesday the 19th, Disney Plus releases trailer for The Wonderful Winter of Mickey Mouse. On Thursday the 20th, 20th Century Studios' The King's Man to debut on Hulu February 18th. On Friday the 21st, Hamish Downey's new Sushi number 121, morsels of news from Japan and beyond. And on Saturday the 22nd, This Got Made, hosted by Carlton Tetley, Season 3, Episode 8, Force Works number 1. We have some shoutouts that we have to make. First to Brian Weber, also known as Arkle. He's on Twitter as Brian the Ampersand List YouTuber. He has his Arkle Times Post-Dispatch news. Yes, it is back, and it republishes some of our content from time to time. And to find the Post-Dispatch news, find him on Twitter. You go to @GeekOfAllTrades, and geek is spelled G, number 3K. And while you're looking for all things Arkle, go to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Arkle Studios. He has a number of his projects there. Shameless Cash Grab series is now in season 7. Rants vs. Zombie series is over, but past episodes are still there. He also has Arkle tier ranks, as well as game videos of Trick and Treat and Star Trek Online. We must also give some shoutouts to a couple of Facebook groups for allowing us to post our episodes and relevant articles on their pages. First to Gay Geeks After Hours for allowing us to share away our content. And their URL is facebook.com/groups/Gay Geeks After Hours. And also to The Gay Geek for pretty much the same thing. And their URL is facebook.com/group/The Gay Geek. And as always, we give special thanks to their moderator, Jeremiah Reeves.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Other places we're found are Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Amazon Podcasts, as well as where other fine podcasts are found. Also, check us out on Sci-Fi Radio at 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific Time on Tuesdays for a replay, and listen to their other content. They are a 24-hour geeky internet radio station. Please rate us and review.
And ruin us.
And ruin us, yes, on iTunes. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. We'll have several links on the page of things we talked about. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From TG Squared Studios, I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. Please be kind to yourself and those around you. Stay safe, wear a mask, get vaccinated. Peace.
Cheers.